Tell me, baby, honestly, we'll be alright. If you know, then promise me you won't be alone.
Big and Tall Sports Show here on Spirit Live 1010 from lovely Ryerson University's Allen Slate studio. With you as always, Pete Apostolopoulos and my esteemed co-host Alec Reid. Alec, what's going on today, bud?
Nothing. We're just chilling here. Apologize for the crappy quality of the sound there. The beautiful auxiliary cord here in the Allen Slate Radio Institute is broken, so my steady hands couldn't hold it in place very well. So we got to get a new auxiliary cord.
Off to a rough start, can only go up from here.
Well, you know what? If you check it out on YouTube, we'll have a fixed sound quality. It'll be absolutely beautiful.
There you go. So episode number 11 today, if we're going back to the original podcast. Alec, who we got going today?
We have one of the all-time greats, absolute legend of hockey, played 20-plus years for a couple of different teams. We have Mark Messier, the captain, Moose, call him whatever you want to call him, one of the greatest players to ever play the game, played with Gretzky and won 4 cups with Gretzky, 1 without him, and then 1 in New York without him, and finally broke the curse of the New York Rangers and brought the Stanley Cup back to New York. So Mark Messier, the Moose, this one goes out to you.
Mediocre career stats there. 6 cups, Edmonton Rangers.
It was average. Only the best captain of all time. I mean,
I loved the interview that they did with Bobby Orr, Gretzky, Messier, and who's the last guy? Lemieux.
Yeah.
That Ron McLean did. That was awesome.
did you see the tweet, the Instagram post that Yager had?
No.
It was at the top 100. It's a picture of him, Ronnie Francis in the middle, and
I did see that.
Mario Lemieux on the side.
I did see that. Yeah.
What a line that is.
Yeah.
Ron Francis, Mario Lemieux, and Jaromir Jagr.
They won 2 cups?
They won 2 cups, back-to-back, 1992 and 93. Back-to-back cups.
Okay. Shall we get right into it here? Lots to talk about today in English. Super Bowl, obviously, this weekend is going to be a big, big topic for the two of us this week. But we're going to start it off, and we're going to get right into our segments of the week. So we're going to start it with the My Kitsal. Again,
hold on.
phone.
You're gonna skip my new segment here, pal.
Oh,
Because I like this segment because I came up with it. So don't skip it on me. We will give the shout out to the phone cases, Mike Hetzel, coming up in a bit. But we have Alec's ridiculously in-depth trivia question of the day. Make sure if you're listening in to tweet at us at Big and Tall Sport with your answer to my ridiculously in-depth trivia question. So a little Super Bowl themed, Tom Brady themed. We have Tom Brady, who was selected 199th in the 2000 NHL draft. NFL draft. That's the second time I made that mistake today. Who was selected first overall by the Cleveland Browns in the 2000 NFL draft? Tweet at us with your answers. Pete will get your answer before we go to the break, and then when we come back from break, we will have the answers to those questions. To that question. Again, the question is, who was selected first overall by the Cleveland Browns in the 2000 NFL draft? Tweet your answers to us at Big and Tall Sport.
Okay, as I was saying, we're going to get to the My Kitsel King of the Castle for the week. Our winner was a pretty easy pick. I think both of us agreed on this one. We're going to go with Roger Federer for winning the Aussie Open.
At 60 years old.
Yeah. At a lot of years old.
35 years old.
But no, he's historically been a bad player against Rafa Nadal because of how good Rafa is and how powerful his forehand is, and Federer uses his backhand a lot. And it's a bad matchup for Federer, and he really played well. I stayed up to watch it with a couple of my buddies because we had nothing going on.
Was it like 3 a.m?
Yeah, it was early. But yeah, definitely Federer 5 sets over Nadal's. I think both are unanimous pick. Our nominee, who doesn't seem to miss in the fourth quarter.
It never misses.
Isaiah Thomas, point guard for the Boston Celtics, who are on fire right now. And don't look now, but the Boston Celtics are getting very, very close to passing the Toronto Raptors in the standings.
That's scary.
And I just saw a article today talking about how they have like 5 or 6 first-round picks over the next 2 years, and they're trying to make a trade for Jimmy Butler.
Look out for the Boston Celtics. Look out for the Boston Celtics.
Yeah.
I think everyone thinks the Raptors are going to be the team that has to unseat Cleveland. Watch out for the Celtics. Isaiah Thomas, 34.2 points per game in 4 games played, 8 assists per game. And he's what, 5'11".
Yeah,
So
something like that.
make sure you check it out. Mike Hetzel. Check out these phone cases. Absolutely incredible phone cases. You can latch onto your finger. Pete, why don't you do a little display here? I got the camera right on close on you.
Okay, so this is really like my big thing is when I text at night and I hold my phone over my head. I'm a big drop the phone on my face guy. So the case has this Velcro piece back here, which you can use as like a wristwatch. There's another attachment. There's a lanyard that goes on the bottom.
I got the lanyard on here. Give me a sec to switch over. Boom. You get the lanyard on here. Attach it around your neck. Wear it as a necklace, which I've been doing all day, and I love it. You just sit like this. $20.
Yeah.
$20.
Definitely a good deal.
At handsmartcase.com. Love these phone cases.
All right. Moving on. Every king needs a jester. So our jester of the week happened today. I caught this on Instagram.
It's beautiful.
And I sent it to Alec. But our winner of the week is Aubrey Solomon, who is a defensive tackle, 5-star recruit, who, for those who are unfamiliar, today's National Signing Day for big-time U.S. Division I football teams. So every year it seems to be getting bigger and bigger and more upblown. Like there's the one guy who had like the shirts on.
Yeah, the three shirts
the
is
three
Florida and
today.
then Florida State, and then they actually went to USC.
The traditional move is to have 3 hats on the table, and then you pick one of the hats and throw the hat on, and that's, I'm going to this school.
Yeah.
So Mr. Solomon had Alabama, Michigan, and Ohio State hats all on his table. And he went on this, he gave his little spiel. I'm going to continue my athletics and academics. Picked up the Michigan hat and then said he was going to the University of Miami. I don't think that this is. I know it happened
it's
today.
so bad.
But I don't think it's getting enough coverage as it should be getting. And I know he's a kid, but it was hilarious.
It's hilarious because everyone is trying to tweet out who's going to be the first one to break where this 5-star recruit is going, and he goes and says Miami while putting on a Michigan hat. And I think you're right. It's completely underrated as to how much this hasn't blown up yet.
I think it's because he's so good. Like he's a 5-star recruit.
Yeah, nobody
right?
cares,
so,
right?
Yeah, nobody
cares.
But yeah, I'm gonna be posting my videos of the week blog tomorrow, so that'll definitely be making the cut.
Do we have a runner up this week for our jester of the week?
Our runner up was Dylan Brooks, with that horrendous. So that's back-to-back weeks we've had flops, by the way. In the running here. If
you check out our blog, WTF Wednesdays, I do it every Wednesday. It was back-to-back weeks where we've had a flop as the number one moment of the week. So really not impressed with this flop. I hate flopping. And basketball is different. Like if you flop in hockey, you kind of fall into the boards. It's kind of acceptable because it's a violent game. But like he took a step back, regained himself, and then like jumped like 6 feet backwards. It was just atrocious. So we're going to move on. We got a bunch of segments to go through. But
really quick, just got the update. Boston just beat the Raptors 109-104.
Wow.
And Isaiah Thomas had 4.7 assists and 4 rebounds in the fourth quarter.
Wow.
So guys keeps doing it.
Make sure you tweet at us throughout the show. We got another one?
44 points.
44
points.
Are we sure you don't want to make him the king of the castle for the week? Oh, my God.
I still think Federer is still the guy.
Yeah, I agree. So we got some tweets rolling in. Make sure you tweet at us. The second half of the show, we're going to be taking questions for the entire second half. So tweet at us your questions. That's at Big and Tall Sport. Make sure you tweet at us to get your question in. So we're moving on here to the K.Fitness Big Man of the Week. Check out K.Fitness on YouTube. A good friend of mine, Kofi, does fitness blogs, and if you got to look at his physique to understand how big this man is.
He's massive. I watched some of his videos.
So we have the K.Fitness Big Man of the Week. This week, Boogie Cousins, DeMarcus Cousins, 30.2 points per game in 5 games played over the week. Led all scorers in total points. If you look at the actual stats, he had the most points in the past 7 days. I mean, maybe not now with Isaiah Thomas going off for 44. But the big man of the week goes to DeMarcus Boogie Cousins, who's an absolute man of a human. He is massive.
We're riding the struggle bus pretty early here. I think we got to clean it up.
You know what? It's been kind of a rough day, though.
I think it's because we're thrown off because I'm sitting over here.
Well, it's also kind of been rough because you were sick this morning. Yeah. We had a test this morning in production theory, and it's just kind of.
It's been a long day.
It's been a long day. I had the Red Bull like 5 minutes before I came in here. Usually have it about 10 before I come in here. So we're kind of getting the juices flowing.
Yeah.
But make sure you keep tweeting out your questions because that's going to get us through the second half.
All right, moving on. Backup performance of the week. Our winner, again, happened yesterday with 3 goals, a hat trick, and 1 assist against the Philadelphia Flyers in just 13 minutes and 59 seconds of ice time. Rookie for the Carolina Hurricanes, Sebastian Aho. This guy's been on absolute fire about the last 5-6 games going into the All-Star break, and then now he's playing on a line with Jordan Staal. I don't know if you saw the highlights from last night, but he scored two of the points around the power play. Again, he only played 13 minutes or 14 minutes. I guess we can round up the 1 second.
Are we wait? 14 minutes.
14 minutes, which I mean, to the standards of the top point producers in the league is not very much. We'll see guys like Austin Matthews play close to 20 a night, 17, 18. So yeah, Sebastian Aho, again, I was just talking about this with my buddies today about how good this rookie class is in the NHL this year. Like there are like 10 guys who are all going to be really, really phenomenal players. And we're seeing, obviously there's the Matthews, Laine, Marner. We're seeing Zach Werenski, Provorov, Brady Shea. There's all sorts of really, really talented players. And, I know we've talked about before how a lot of these pro leagues that we follow closely are getting a lot younger. And I think that this year is a big, big turning point into making people realize, hey, like these 18-year-old guys are coming in the league and they're ready to play right away.
Do you think that we're kind of seeing a resurgence of sorts of I don't want to say resurgent because it was never overly prominent, but kind of a coming out party for power play specialists? Because you talk about Sebastian Aho going out and getting 3 goals, 2 of them on the power play in 13 minutes. You got to figure that at least 4 of those are on the power play. Do you think that we're kind of seeing guys like Aho and I don't want to say Patrick Laine because he plays a lot of minutes, but him to an extent as these power play specialists, or do you think that it's just kind of coincidence that he's just sniping these on the power play?
I think in this case I guess you could make an argument for it, but look what Sam Gagner has done in Columbus. I think he has like 14 points on the power play, and he's averaging like 12 minutes a game or something like that. Maybe more than 14 points. He's in the top 20 in power play points, and he only plays like 13 minutes. He only plays like 13 minutes a game.
Yeah.
So I think that it's definitely becoming a strategy if you can have that speed. Again, Sam Gagner's kind of been in the league a long time. He's a very, very quick, very good offensive player. So I don't necessarily think it might be a movement that we see, but there's definitely a few guys that are exceptions. Again, that was the first guy that popped into my head. But I think this Sebastian Aho is going to be, again, added into that conversation of really talented young players. And I think the last few weeks he's starting to figure out. Another guy who's slowly starting to figure out too is Anthony Mantha with Detroit.
Yeah.
He's been really, really good the last probably 2 months. So again, we're seeing all these young guys come in and, you could make cases for all of them to win the Calder, and there's probably 10 guys who, if it was any other year, you might have had a better shot. Obviously, you have guys like Matthews and Laine who are in the top 5 in goals, and it's going to be tough to get votes for how well they're playing.
I love the tweets rolling in, keeping rolling in. Keep the tweets coming. We really do appreciate it. I think, and you make a lot of great points about these young players coming in, but is there, I don't want to get too far off topic, but I kind of feel like we've always had these players, but we've never kind of committed to these young players as much as they have this year, right? You look at some of the young players we've had over the years. Taylor Hall was a stud coming right out. You had Jordan Eberle again in Edmonton, who had a couple of great years. But I think there was kind of a commitment issue, especially with, I'm going to bring up the Oilers again, like a Nail Yakupov, how they tried to rush him in too early. And are we kind of seeing the trusting the process, to use Joel Embiid? Are we kind of, is this a kind of a changing league-wide to kind of send these kids back to junior or let them do their extra year like the Leafs did with William Nylander? Is this a process that we're seeing league-wide, or are we just kind of just hearing about it now because it's actually working?
I think a prime example of this, exactly what we're talking about, is Matthew Tkachuk with Calgary, because he came up and stunk his first 2-3 games, and they were like, okay, we're going to send him back to London. At the same time, though, the argument was, well, what else does he have to prove? He was he averaged over a goal per game last year in the OHL. So what is he really going to improve on? So with that said, and now look what he's doing. He's having a fantastic his offensive upside's matured more than a lot of people thought. It's very, very quick in terms of how fast he's matured. And he's becoming a really strong two-way player, and that Calgary team might sneak into the playoffs, and he could be a big reason why.
So I want to move on here.
Do we want to say our nominee for that one?
Quickly shout it out.
Our nominee was Kirk Cousins, threw for 158 and 14 out of 20 in the fourth quarter for the NFC.
And one strip.
And he had one of the best plays I've ever seen in the Pro Bowl. He replaced Aaron Rodgers. So we're calling that a backup.
Yeah, backup. So we're going to move on to Pete's favorite moment of the week. He tweeted this, texted this to me with a link to it, and I was blown away by this. This is it's terrible how I won't spoil it, but this is terrible. This is terrible. Pete, who is the don't be that guy of the week?
This was the most fired up I've been about anything that wasn't baseball related in 6 months. Don't be that guy of the week goes to the Staples Center and to the NHL for not having Bo Horvat jerseys to sell at the All-Star game. So his mom went and tried to buy a jersey and they didn't have it. So they're like, okay, we'll make one for you. And then they didn't have any R letters left to stitch onto the jersey.
Literally not a single R.
No R's.
You can go check it out. I did talk about this briefly on the blog on the WTF Wednesdays. It the Vancouver Canucks were tweeting about this, and Bo Horvat, first time All-Star, this is a huge moment for him and his family coming out to support it. They went all the way out to LA. This is a huge moment, and you run out of R's. How do you run out of R's?
How do you not have?
How do you not have an endless supply?
How do you not have 10 jerseys for every guy just in case?
Yeah, exactly. I understand, not having his jersey to an extent because he's not a huge All-Star. He's an All-Star nonetheless.
He played really well in the All-Star
He did play
game,
really well.
And he's had a really low-key good first half considering how bad his team is.
But all things considered, how do you run out of R's? What do you say? What do you say to the Horvat family? Excuse me, miss. We actually can't sell you a jersey of your son because we ran out of R's. I'm so sorry. Terrible.
Well, there's also the fact that you would think that the next day they had to have had a jersey for him the next day.
I would be sending them 3. I'd be sending one for every family member, every friend he has.
Yeah.
It's brutal. It's brutal. I want to move on because I don't want to talk about this. This is just bad.
Yeah.
So we're going to move on. I want to quickly state our matchup of the week. Usually we do this last, but it's obvious. What's our matchup of the week?
The Super Bowl?
Yeah. If you're listening to this and you don't know the Super Bowl is this week, why are you here? Don't leave though. Don't leave.
You didn't listen last week.
Yeah.
If you didn't know.
That's true. That's true. But if you're a first-time listener, we appreciate it. But yeah, Super Bowl this week is our matchup of the week because, it's the game of the year. It's the second most watched, found this out today, second most watched televised sporting event in the world each year. Can you name what's it before?
Daytona 500?
No.
Is it a NASCAR race?
It is not a NASCAR race. Go global.
UEFA Champions League final?
Yes, Champions League final. Yes, the Champions League final is the only event that is viewed more than the Super Bowl. So there's your fun fact of the day. Fun fact.
Okay, outrageous predictions. Alec, go for it.
Me first? Okay. So I'm a big fan of prop bets at the Super Bowl.
We're going to be talking about
We're going to talk prop bets. If you got questions about top prop bets, tweet at us at Big and Tall Sport. We're going to be answering all the questions that have been piling in on Twitter in the second half after our break. But my outrageous prediction is that there will be a mess up or a screw up or some sort, kind of like with the coin not flipping with Aaron Rodgers in overtime during one of the coin flips. I'll say one of, just in case there's one in overtime. But something will happen. They'll mess up. They'll drop the coin. They won't flip it right. You'll have a Jerome Bettis where he calls head tails and he calls the wrong thing. So
Joe Namath.
The
ref caught it.
Yeah, we'll have one of those. So there'll be some sort of mess up at the coin flip of the Super Bowl. That's my outrageous prediction.
Mine's not as outrageous, but it's kind of outrageous. I'm going out on a limb and saying Mohamed Sanu is going to be the MVP of the Super Bowl. We'll get to our final predictions and whatnot later on in the show, but I think Julio is going to get shut down by Malcolm Butler, and I think he's going to be wide open a lot.
That's honestly not that outrageous.
He's
If you pay, if you know the Falcons and you know their team, you'll know that Mohamed Sanu has become a huge part of the offense because of what teams have to do to shut down Julio Jones. I would say Devontae Freeman being the All-Star the MVP is a little less outrageous. I would say that I'd put Matty Ice, Julio Jones, Devontae Freeman, even maybe Tevin Coleman ahead of Mohamed Sanu. But Mohamed Sanu's probably fifth other than some defensive guys. If anybody, I love Mohamed Sanu because he basically won me my fantasy league a few years ago. When AJ Green went down for Cincinnati, I picked him up and he went off as their number one receiver. But he is a very, very good player and a very underrated player because he's always been the number 2 receiver. He was number 2 to AJ Green. Now he's number 2 to Julio Jones.
He fits it well, though.
But he does fit it well. He reminds me of, not so much in position wise, but like a Wes Welker to Terrell Owens, to Randy Moss. Sorry, to Randy Moss when Randy Moss was with the Pats. Is that, like, I know position-wise he doesn't exactly fit the mold, but kind of that style production and that style play.
Yeah.
Is that totally off?
I think Wes Welker had a little more production, but also he was getting a lot more passes. But yeah, I think he's like, you could pretty much pencil him in for 5-6 targets and at least he'll catch most of them.
And he's very dangerous without the ball, or once he has the ball, sorry. Like catch and run, he might be better than Julio Jones.
Well,
bold statement, but
it's tough because they're both similar styles. Sanu's a little older, so he's probably not as quick off the line as Julio is, but Julio's also probably the best wide receiver in the league, aside from maybe Antonio Brown or OBJ.
Yeah.
But yeah, Mohamed Sanu. So the odds to, really quick before we take a break, the odds to win Super Bowl MVP: Brady's at 3-2, Matt Ryan 7-4, Julio 11-2, and then the field's 10-1. I can't find the exact. I'll look it up and we'll talk about it in the prop bets, but it was something like 30-1 or something like that.
So one last time, tweet at us your answer at Big and Tall Sport to the outrageous trivia question of the day. Who was the number 1 pick of the 2000 NFL draft? Tom Brady was selected 199th. Remember that. Tom Brady picked 199th in the 2000 NFL draft. So be sure to tweet us with your questions. We're going to be taking and answering all of your questions in the second half. Well, maybe not all. We'll try and get to them. But we got a quick break coming up, and then we are going to be right back. We'll talk Super Bowl. We'll talk what else are we going to talk about, Pete?
Talk about the All-Star games a little bit.
Talk about the All-Star games
maybe
a
some
bit.
Jays.
Got some great questions. We're going to talk esports because I got an esports question, and we're going to talk esports. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. You tired of dropping your phone? Then look no further than the MyKetzel Smart Case Handler. The MyKetzel Smart Case Handler is a brand new smartphone accessory that will fulfill your need to secure your phone in your hand, all while eliminating the risk of dropping it. To find out how this new innovative product accomplishes this, visit athandsmartcase.com. That's ATHAND smartcase.com. Available for most smartphone styles at an affordable cost. It's MyKetzel at athandsmartcase.com. Once again, that's ATHAND smartcase.com.
This is Kofi and Two Sugars from K-Dot Fitness. If you guys are looking for tips, tricks, you want to lift heavy, or you want to lose some weight, or you want to step on stage and get some free advice, take a look at my Instagram at Kofi and Two Sugars, or you can go on YouTube at KDOT Fitness.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome back. Sorry for the extended delay. Alec, why were we delayed so long?
Minor technical issues.
Yeah.
Because
Alec was looking for his...
I was looking for my laptop charger, which I nicely placed right behind my laptop, and then told Pete that I left out in the other room. So I got to watch Pete sprint out to try and find it.
Yeah, nice guy.
Well, thank you for getting it for me, Pete, because now we can continue on with the show without a hitch.
All right, let's get to some tweets.
Let's get to the tweets. We're gonna start off. We'll start off with the esports. Alexander McElmoyle tweets at us. If you guys are familiar with the topic, where do you stand on esports? Pete, I'll let you take this one because I do have an opinion on esports, but I want to hear yours first. What's your take on esports?
We've had this conversation before.
First off, just explain what esports is.
So
for the folks
esports,
at
for
home.
those who don't know, like our dads or our parents or grandparents who have no idea what esports is. Esports is basically ESPN broadcasts the world championships and big tournaments with millions and millions of dollars in prizes for online video games. So the big one is League of Legends, which is an online simulation type style game. Esports is really interesting because it's blowing up really fast, and I think in the States it gets a lot more press than it does here, especially like I said, ESPN broadcasts it now. Will Ferrell's doing a movie about it coming out later on this year, early 2018. It's becoming a big thing, and these guys are winning like literally millions of dollars, and they're getting paid millions of dollars a year to stream and post videos on YouTube. Is it sports?
It's questionable.
I would kind of put it in like the poker category.
Poker, you could argue sort of like darts. Like it's more of a spectacle than it is a true sport. Like darts is a sport, I would say, but a lot of people don't consider darts a sport, which is kind of sad. I'm on the same stance as you. Like, don't get me wrong, I watch on YouTube videos of people, playing video games, and it's hilarious. Like I find it hilarious. So it is. If you're gonna laugh at me, it's hilarious. But competitively, like, we watch it on Twitch, and I'm not a huge League of Legends or World of Warcraft, anything like that guy. But I think that esports is, in essence, a sport because of how competitive it is, how much money is involved, and how, in a general sense, overall competition there is. I think it's a sport. I certainly am not at that level of gaming. Like I'm pretty good, but I'm not at that level.
Well, even like Madden's been doing a tournament every year since I've been playing the game where they'll get the best players and you'll qualify, and first place is like $100,000.
Yeah.
1 year they did the finals in Times Square.
Yeah, and they always have these in movie theaters too.
Yeah, they do them in movie theaters. Again, esports, I'm not a big like when I play video games, I'm not a big like esports prototypical video game guy, like in terms of the games that they play. But I totally get it. Like, we've both been sports guys our whole lives. And we've always kind of been athletes and haven't really been big video game guys. Like I'm a big video game guy, but not in the sense of like strategy games.
No. Sports games.
Yeah, it's basically sports games and like, first person shooters.
Yeah.
But yeah, like if you watch these guys, like they get really into it, and like I don't want to say it's funny because like to them it makes sense, but like at the same time, if we're sitting here talking about our show, they probably have no idea what we're talking about. Like some of these guys probably have no idea. It's a different world. Some of these guys probably have no idea the Super Bowl's this weekend.
Speaking of the Super Bowl, I almost forgot about my ridiculously in-depth trivia question of the day. So Pete, I want to get your answer quick to who was the first overall pick in the 2000 NFL draft to the Cleveland Browns. By the way, I'm 2 for 2 on nobody getting it right on Twitter.
Okay. The Cleveland Browns have sucked since I've been watching football, and I know they had 3 first-round picks out of 4 years from, I believe it was 99 to 03. Is that correct? Or is it 98 to 02?
I believe it was 99.
99. Okay.
To 03. I'm not 100% on that.
I think they had it in like 99, 2000, and 2002.
Yeah.
They had the first overall pick. My guess was I know he was one of those picks. I don't know if he was in 99 or 2000, but I'm going to say Tim Couch.
Quarterback. So
all-time draft bust team. First ballot Hall of Fame draft bust.
I have a better draft bust for you because Tim Couch was selected first overall in the 1999 NFL draft. Defensive end from, I think, Penn State. Let me check on that. Courtney Brown. Courtney Brown. Can you name who Courtney Brown is?
I never heard of this guy.
I saw this thing about the, I guess, fallacy of the Cleveland Browns throughout the 90s and 2000s. Courtney Brown, defensive end. He came from Penn State, played from 2000 to 2006, played 4 years for the Browns and 1 year for the Denver Broncos, had 19 sacks as a defensive end in 6 years. Just a overall kind of a disappointing career.
No kidding.
You look at his stats, pretty good first year, 61 tackles in 16 games with 4.5 sacks, but it peaked there. It peaked there. And it's unfortunate because, as we all know, Cleveland just went downhill from there on out.
Well, they're going to take the outside linebacker from, I think he's from A&M.
Yep.
Is the consensus pick.
Texas A&M.
I can't remember his name. It's not coming to me right now. But hopefully his career is a little better than this guy's. But can we take in for a sec? Tom Brady, is he the best draft steal of all time? 199th. Like,
yeah.
Another one that comes to mind, because I just watched a documentary about it a couple weeks ago, is Mike Piazza. He was like a 46th round pick
Daniel
or something
Alfredson
like that.
as well.
Lidstrom
as well. I would
Marty St. Louis
I would
undrafted.
say though, because of that's the thing. If we're gonna talk like draft steals, do we talk about undrafted guys? Because like a guy like Drew Brees not Drew Brees, who's not coming to me right now, but there were a bunch of undrafted players that went on to be huge successes, right? And can we consider them as, draft steals because they didn't even get drafted? Like Tom Brady in the NFL is absolutely the best draft steal.
In the top 5 best quarterbacks of all time, and they drafted him 199th overall.
Yeah.
Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah. I mean, name a better quarterback.
Not named Peyton Manning.
Not named Peyton Manning in the past 20 years.
I mean, Elway won 2 Super Bowls in the late 90s. I guess, how old's 20 years? 20 years, I guess, is like...
Yeah. 20 years is,
we're old, man.
Yeah, we're old. 20 years is 1997. So right when Elway was winning the Super Bowls.
Elway won the Super Bowls. But I wouldn't
Brady's
even...
won 4.
And
Brady's
that's
won
not
4.
his best years.
No.
The one guy that I could think of that maybe, aside from Brady and Manning, would be Drew Brees.
Yeah. But Drew Brees was. But he hasn't won. Drew Brees was a second round pick too.
Yeah, well, because he's small.
And he also had LaDainian Tomlinson on his team for a number of years, right? You think about the team that he had, played with LT, and then the whole Phillip Rivers thing, and he went to New Orleans, and they had great success there, mostly in part to Drew Brees. I mean, Drew Brees is an unbelievable player.
Another guy who, if he wasn't an idiot off the field, who was my favorite player to watch, aside from Peyton Manning growing up, was Michael Vick. And I feel like if he didn't go to jail for 3 years, he definitely would be in that conversation.
He'd be in that conversation for sure.
With these guys. Like, that guy was so good.
Very good.
He was so dynamic, and he could throw the ball 75 yards down the field, and he could burn you on with his legs too.
So Tep at Tep Sports just tweeted at us: drafted or undrafted, when the greatest of all time in any sport gets drafted in the 6th round, that is the biggest steal. I agree. And Rick tweeted at us: playing a pinball machine and tilting the crap out of it is way more of a sport. Esports sounds like video game contests.
This is the man who just got an iPhone and doesn't know how to use half the features on it. But he did text me another guy we forgot, Brett Favre. Rodgers.
But was Brett Favre really like a draft steal? Like, I mean, yeah, he still wasn't as late as Brady. Right? Like, and he was still, like, when he went to Atlanta, Atlanta didn't have hopes for him, but there were other teams that still had high hopes for him and still thought he was going to be good. Brady got drafted as a nobody. Like, Belichick took him and was like, hey, man, you're a camp arm.
Well,
like,
have you seen...
he basically told him that.
Barstool has those pictures of his Scout Day picture where he's like standing there
with
and
like
it says
the little...
goat. It says goat on them. Like, if I was a Pats fan, I would 100% have one of those T-shirts.
I'd have that like framed in my room.
Yeah. So,
but I'm not a Pats fan.
But look, that's just one of those things. Like, for every bust every guy who we see that's a Tom Brady, there's 15 guys who are busts,
Yeah.
more than 15 guys.
Well, and it's the other way around. You have guys like Peyton Manning drafted first overall that are absolute studs. You have look at some of the best first overall picks, Mario Lemieux. I always think Peyton Manning just because it's Peyton Manning. Right now, Austin Matthews is lighting it up. I mean, he still could be a bust, but Connor McDavid, Sidney Crosby, Alex Ovechkin, these guys are all first overall picks that were studs.
Peyton Manning wasn't the guy who everyone would have taken, though. Ryan Leaf was the guy that everyone said this guy's
I think by the end of it, though,
pick.
I think by the end of it, though, the consensus was
It was for most of that season because I'm a Peyton Manning guy, so like I've read a lot about Ryan Leaf and the whole Leaf versus Manning in the '98 draft, and a lot of people wanted the Colts to take Ryan Leaf over Peyton.
I think
Manning.
a lot of fans wanted Ryan Leaf. I think and if you talk to most of the guys, most of the people in the Colts organization at the time, they knew that it was Peyton Manning, right? Because of, and obviously I've read the Ryan Leaf things with the personality issues and all this stuff.
Yeah, he was not a good guy.
No. So, and I want to go to another question here really quick because we're talking about the draft. Jamie tweeted at us. Jamie, big follower of the show, tweets at us every week.
I wonder why.
Should we? What are your thoughts on the draft lottery? Should we still have draft lotteries in leagues that we have lotteries? And should maybe the NFL move to a league and having the draft lottery instead of having, the Cleveland Browns getting the first pick because they finished last? What are your thoughts on that?
I'm a draft lottery guy only because, but in football I get why they don't do it because it's probably the sport that's the hardest to tank in.
Yeah.
Like to deliberately tank in football is very difficult to do considering how many guys there are in the team and how many players you have to manage. There's always going to be a guy, if you give him a chance, he might
just
end up
break
being
it.
a stud. We just talked about all these guys who are undrafted and low draft picks. The rosters are so big and it's such a competitive league that I think it's okay that football doesn't have one. With the rest of the leagues, though, I'm totally okay with a draft lottery. Baseball doesn't have a draft lottery either. But I think it just keeps a competitive balance. Look at the Philadelphia 76ers the last few years. They've been an absolute mess, but they haven't got the first pick every year, even though they've been one of the worst teams for the last, 5-6 years.
Well, look at the Edmonton Oilers, who weren't supposed to get the number one pick every year, and then they did because they won the lottery. But is that really fair to the team that finished last? I like the lottery because it prevents tanking completely, right? I think that teams can still tank, but it doesn't. It discourages teams from tanking. I don't think any team ever wants to tank. I think it's a consensus decision when you realize halfway through the year that you are anywhere near the playoffs. I think it's a consensus decision that we're just going to ride this season out as it goes, and we're done. I think that's a consensus decision. I don't think it's we're tanking this year because we want this guy, like it was with Patrick Ewing, and that's why they brought the lottery in the NBA.
Well, the McDavid year, the Leafs were one ball away from being the team that got him. So, and they were the worst team that year.
They were no.
Buffalo was, right?
Yeah, Buffalo was.
Buffalo ended up with the second.
ended up
Leafs
second.
that was Marner, right?
Yeah.
So, but again, I think like you nailed it with Patrick Ewing. If you're a fan and you're a season ticket holder, or you're going to watch a game, and look at Vancouver this year. They're not a very good team. So if Vancouver's going to tank, are you going to go watch if they trade the Sedins and maybe not, they won't trade Bo Horvat, but if they trade Ryan Miller and the Sedins and Edler and all these guys who the fans have seen play there for the last 5-6 years at a really high level until the last couple where they've been on the skids.
I think that's a different situation though, because if you look at what the Leafs did a few years ago, it was a consensus we're going to rebuild, right? And I think if you're a Canucks fan and they say we're going to trade these guys away and we're going to rebuild, I think you're okay with that, and I think you still watch because you're like, let's see what the future holds, which honestly I think is what they need to do. Another team that I think needs to do that is the Boston Bruins.
But I think with the Leafs it's different because the team could be the worst team to play in the NHL in the 100 years it's existed, and the game will still be sold out
Yeah.
because of all the money and corporate sponsorship and season ticket holders that they have. If you go to a Leaf game, it's all guys in suits,
Yeah.
right? Like the only time I go, like I'm sure you're the same way, is if I get free tickets
That's
offered
it.
to me.
Well, yeah, you got to. That's the only way you can go.
Well, because I'm not paying $100 to
No,
go sit up
in the upper bowl.
In the upper bowl,
Yeah.
right? Like, I went to the Raptors game against the Spurs, and I think our tickets were like $30 face value or something like that.
So I want to ask one more quick question because I don't want to talk Super Bowl and get your thoughts and
we're almost
your
out of time.
predictions. We are almost out of time.
Holy
It's
crap.
crazy when you get the conversation rolling. So I want to do 1 minute here, Pete, on the NBA and the NFL. Should going to college be a requirement to get drafted to the NFL, or do we go back to the old NBA high school days? Maybe not so much the NFL. I get the NFL, but should the NBA be able to draft players right out of high school?
Did we see the guy? We just talked about it. The guy didn't even say the right university that he was going to.
Do we want him going to the?
Do we want him going to? You look at the guy last year at the draft. 10 minutes before the draft started, the guy's supposed to be in the top 5 pick, and a picture comes out of him hitting a ball on Twitter. And then afterwards in the press conference, they were asking him questions, and he flat out said that he got paid.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like these are guys who have just got drafted in the first round. So we want to take away. We want to make it. Yeah, that's cool. Like you don't want to go to school. Like it's fine. There's no chance. Like a lot of these guys, as good as they are, and from a football standpoint,
I get it.
you could probably
From a football standpoint, I get it. You're not ready. You're not like anywhere near mature enough to go right out of high school. You have to go to college. But the NBA, like Kobe Bryant and LeBron James didn't go. Those guys were two of the best of all time. Right? So it's hit or miss. And I think you're right. You nailed it with the guy who couldn't even put the right hat on. But
this is going to be like we have to have a separate long conversation about this. But look at a lot of the professional athletes who go broke and who spend all their money.
very true.
Majority of them are from the NFL and the NBA because those are the ones where they go to school at least. You know, a lot of baseball players, if you go to school in baseball, you're there for 3 years.
Yeah.
Right?
Minimum, right?
And I think that it's not necessarily, and when they're at school, I think that if you're not going to give them a proper education, because like, let's face it, a lot of these guys don't go to class and they don't take a full course load. And the thing just came out with North Carolina where they were making up classes for basketball players to take and giving away free credits. So I think with all this stuff coming out, if you don't want to go to class, or the football coach doesn't let you go to, or doesn't want you going to class, or lets you not go to class, that's discretion by the university. But at the same time, let's at least make these guys take some mandatory classes. Like if you're an athlete and you're going to the University of Alabama and you're going to play football in the NFL, you have to take this class about like business management or something. You know what I mean? Like not
managing your money, marketing.
Just common sense stuff.
Yeah.
Like when I was at school, we've talked about this. When I was at school, we had to do a social media course and like
we had to do all that.
a sexual contact seminar. I had to do one this year at Ryerson.
Yeah.
So like, but I don't think that there's enough emphasis on that stuff. Like I think there
agree.
needs to be more of that because at the end of the day, that's the stuff that they're gonna actually use if they go on to be a first round pick in the NFL.
So I just want to quickly get your thoughts, Pete. We got a couple minutes here, so I want to wrap it up on Super Bowl predictions. We got the Super Bowl, and maybe one quick thought on the Super Bowl and who do you think's going to win? What's the score and why? Go.
Okay. Final score is going to be 33-28 Atlanta.
Why?
Because I think that they have too many weapons on offense, and I think that their pass rush is better than the Patriots. And I feel like the Patriots haven't really played as well as Atlanta has in the playoffs going in. And a lot of people are just writing Atlanta off right off the bat. Another thing, I don't know if we talked about it last week or not, I can't remember, but Matt Ryan, 82% on third down since the bye week.
Yeah.
And he didn't miss last week against Green Bay, or the week before, rather. I just think Atlanta's going to do it, man. I love Matt Ryan. I've always been a fan of his, and he's eaten a lot of crap from the media and from fans around the league. And I really think he's playing way better than Tom Brady is right now. And Tom Brady's playing well, but this guy's been out of control the last 2 weeks. I think
also,
Atlanta, 33-28.
33-28. I also agree. I'm going to go Atlanta too. I'm going to go a little more widespread. I'm going to go 35-28. I think they're going to. I think they're going to destroy the Patriots. from start to finish. Like it'll be like the Patriots claw back to get to 28 kind of game. I think everyone's underestimating the Falcons. I mean, that's a bold prediction for me to say. They're
Tom
gonna claw
Brady's
back,
39 years old.
I know. So quickly, Pete, I want to talk favorite prop bet. We got 2 minutes here. I want you to bring up the prop bets and give me one bold prediction on a prop bet. How many prop bet? 109, I think.
Yeah, so I found this list. It's 109 USA Today. My favorite one on the list is probably let me just scroll.
I heard one. Wasn't it how many times like you see a celebrity pop up on the TV or something like that?
That one's not on this list. My favorite in-game one is 30-1 odds on a fullback scoring a touchdown, which I think could happen because both teams throw to their fullback a lot in the flats. Obviously, both of them have big running backs with Freeman and Blunt, so they're going to be getting the handoffs in the red zone. But I think 30-1, that one was pretty interesting to look at. Another good one.
I like that one right there.
Which one?
The over-under on the number of times the phrase greatest of all time is said during the broadcast. 5.5. Peter, we over or under?
Over.
Way over.
Another good one that I saw was over-under times Gronk's shown on TV. It was 2.5. And last week,
way over.
The guy, because he's going to be sitting in Bob Kraft's. He's going to be sitting in Bob Kraft's suite. And another one that they had was how many times is Bob Kraft's suite going to be shown?
Yeah.
And it was like 5.5, and then they had the Atlanta ownership box, and it was like 3.5. It's going to be way over. But
I agree.
It's going to be fun.
It's going to be fun. Make sure you check out the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl is always a blast.
And the commercials this year. We get American
commercials this year, which I'm learning about SimSub in the CRTC in one of my sport media programming classes. If you don't know why you should be watching the game on CTV and not on Fox, go look up what SimSub is and what the CRTC ban to allowing the American commercials is doing to Canadian market and Bell. That's going to wrap it up for us today. Thanks again for coming in for a great show. Pete, we really picked it up in the second half there.
Yeah, we were a little quick there at the end, but you know what? Have fun watching the Super Bowl, and hopefully you guys learned something, had a little fun. I know we did, even though we came out the gate a little wobbly. But thanks for listening. Have a great night, everybody.